Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Hey, the last two times we talked about hanging baskets and containers. This time around, I think we're going to do something a little bit different.
Okay.
We've called it in the past kind of a walk around the yard and take a look at things and comment on different things. And these are also some of the questions that I fielded on the garden hotline for Penn State Erie County Extension. And again, if anybody wants to call that line to submit a question, the area code is 814, then the phone number is 825-0900. And one of the master gardeners, including myself, will follow up with you on those questions. But as I walked around my yard, because that's what I kind of like to do, okay, to do that, and I go, these spring flowers, okay, by now most of the blossoms have kind of started to wither. Is that correct, Ellen?
That's true.
Yeah, the tulips and
That
the
time.
daffodils
Mm-hmm.
and the hyacinths have kind of, passed their prime, and now the blossoms are falling apart. One of the things a couple of different things that you want to do, you know, ideally you want to remove those spent blossoms because you don't want that plant to put a lot of energy into developing seeds, because you're not looking for seeds. You're looking for a healthy plant that's going to give you some good blossoms again next year. So along that same line, you have to leave the foliage. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, especially as it starts to get a little ratty.
Brown.
Yeah, it gets a little ratty looking. But that's nourishing the bulbs for the following season. So you kind of have to leave it there. And I let mine turn pretty brown, but I plant other things around it to kind of cover it up. So you got to figure out a nice way of doing it. And you can cut it off earlier than what I would, but you got to leave it there for a little while to help nourish those bulbs. Now, the other thing is that if you were disappointed with the blossoms this year, a couple of different things can be happening. Number one of the biggest things is that maybe those plants, after the blossoms, are not getting enough sunshine. The trees start to leaf out a little bit, and maybe they shade those plants that you have in the ground. You're probably going to need to move them if you want them to come back and be as nice and vibrant as they were in the past. So don't be afraid to do that. The other thing is that over time, some of these bulbs, they reproduce underground and they get kind of crowded. And as they do that, the number of blossoms will start to decrease. So you might have to kind of dig them up sometime after the foliage has died down. And don't replant them right away. Well, you can, but I like to take my bulbs and then just kind of put them in the garage or put them in the fruit cellar, and then I'll plant them again in the fall, if I remember.
Okay. If you remember.
If I remember.
Yeah. I took these up last year. Oh, okay.
So, and the nice thing about the tulips and nice thing about the daffodils and the hyacinths is that the deer don't bother them. And that's why I have to grow a lot of those, and we get a lot of beautiful color from them.
Yeah.
Ellen, but this year we also had a little bit of a different phenomenon. We've had some cold weather, haven't we?
We have, especially this spring, it kind of goes high and then low. And if you're out walking your garden again, you probably notice that some of those leaves on your garden shrubs and trees look like they've been burnt and the wind has damaged them. And you might panic and think, what do I have to do? But basically let Mother Nature take care of it, because they'll be okay. I mean, that's just a fact of nature, and it can happen occasionally, especially when we've had these up and down temperatures and a lot of wind like we've had this spring.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I got a call the other day on the hotline. Somebody wanted to know they're going to take some of those off, and I go, no, just let them go. Don't
let them go.
Let them go. Mother Nature will take care of the issue. One of the other calls I got is somebody called about his lawn. It kind of looked pretty ratty. He says, after the snow melted and things cleared, it looked like it was kind of dead. But in reality, here again, a couple of different things could have happened. It could have been too wet. Okay, over the winter, it could have been too dry because we went through periods of time where there wasn't much of a snow cover, or it could have been, when we didn't have that snow cover, it could have gotten really cold, and it did, and you can actually freeze some of those grass plants, if you will, and then we went through a period of time where the snow cover was really thick. and
Mm-hmm.
you can actually suffocate the grass. So you look at the literature, and what they tell you is that be patient. Okay, the center of those grass plants may still be viable, and they may start to grow. So what you might find as the season progresses and it warms up a little bit, you might have to rake it out a little bit. You might have to overseed, but you shouldn't have to dig it all up, okay, and replant it. And be careful about adding too much fertilizer too soon. Let those
Mm-hmm.
plants get started as the temperature starts to warm up a little bit. Let them recover, and again, let Mother Nature take care of things to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Ellen, now you got your trees. There's trees around the yard too, trees and
Right.
shrubs.
Right.
What should you do there?
Well, I think now would be the time to trim your tree if you want to remove any dying branches or anything on there. So you could trim it and kind of make it look the way you want it to look. And now would be the time to do that, um, before they really start producing a lot of blossoms and new leaves and all that. So you can right now remove any dying branches from your trees.
Okay, and what about
Hmm.
what about shrubs? We have a little bit of time here to talk about
Yeah,
spring and
okay.
summer blooming shrubs.
Yeah. This is kind of an issue around here. Um, your spring blooming shrubs, you should not trim them right now. Trim them after they flower because your flower buds are forming on last year's growth. So you don't want to trim now, or otherwise you probably won't have any flowers this spring.
Yeah.
And summer blooming shrubs, you want to trim them very soon after they flower because remember, your flower buds will be forming on this year's growth for those summer blooming shrubs. So be very careful about your shrubs that are out there. Just don't run out there and say, oh, I got to trim these now, because if they're your spring blooming shrubs, if you trim them now, you probably won't get any flowers this year.
Yes. Okay. So that's just a few of the things as you walk around the yard. We're kind of running out of time though, so
Okay.
we have to close out. But you know, be patient and
Hmm.
take care of things. So thank you for listening.
Okay.